to another episode of Data Gurus. I'm so excited to welcome Rick West, who is the co-founder and CEO of FieldAgent. Well, welcome, Rick.
Thanks for having me. I'm excited about today. We've been looking forward to it.
Yeah, me too. Thank you. So, I know you have such an amazing experience in this industry. I would just love it. And I don't want to minimize your journey, but
Uh,
if you could just give listeners just a little bit of the highlights of your journey that got you to the point of co-founding FieldAgent.
sure. I came from the corporate world.
Okay.
So I spent 17 years with Procter Gamble. For most of the people listening now would say that's great. And the other, make 50% great. The other 50% are rolling their eyes. But hey, from whence I came, but great training ground, classic training, would
Yeah.
not have traded it for the world. Spent time in the US. My final 3 years of the company were in Asia, a couple of years in Hong Kong, a year in Bangkok. And that was truly an entrepreneurial experience within a corporate umbrella funded by the corporation.
Right.
But it was just from Indonesia to Jakarta, and then you're in Australia, then you're back up in the Philippines. I mean, but it really was this entrepreneurial thing. And I had to make the decision, am I going to come back into that true corporate machine in
Right.
Cincinnati, Ohio, the home
Yes.
office, or am I going to go out and do something on my own? And I had a good friend of mine, Henry Ho, that lived here. This is Rick. This Northwest Arkansas bubble, this
Yeah.
vendor community for Walmart is unlike anything you've seen.
Mm.
I think we could take what we've learned from P&G and
Yeah.
go create something for every other vendor that's here. And that's what really got me out of the corporate world into this entrepreneurial. But that was a classic lifestyle business. You could only grow as fast as I could attend meetings. I mean, it was
Right.
founder led, driven. And then about 10 years after that, this little thing called, oh, I don't know, the iPhone 3S came out, you know, and it was the rage. It'd be the rage being that, let's call it what it is. Front facing camera was great, 2 megapixel, no video yet, but it was
Right.
fantastic. And we were trying to use that technology to capture pictures inside of a store because my wife, who also worked for Procter, was
Okay.
running a research business, and
Ah,
she's flying all over the US to do intercepts in
good
stores and
finances.
engaging
Yep.
people. And we're just road warriors.
Mhm.
And we've been sending digital cameras out to people, I mean, everything we could do. We
Right.
said, wait a minute, we're all holding this little computer.
Yeah.
And at that point in time, the business model for an app was to get someone to download it, get eyes on it, have them click an ad.
Yep.
And we said, I wonder with PayPal and other things, if we could convince someone to download an app and take a picture for us, and they did.
Yep.
It was crazy. This is 2 months
Amazing.
before Uber launched. The gig economy wasn't a thing.
Wow.
And so at that point in time, it was purely a tool for our marketing business and for our research business. And after about a year, we realized that we could scale this. This is something we really should focus
Amazing.
on. So if you're listening to the journey, it wasn't, hey, I had an idea, leave the company, go make this happen. It was taking my skill set that I had, getting out of the support mechanism of the corporate world, which is truly not an entrepreneurial world at all, as you know.
Yes.
And once
Yes.
you got a taste of it and you really opened your eyes to the problems you could solve, the question was not if you were going to do it, it's which one of the problems were you going to solve at scale?
Right.
And
Right.
this was the one, and the rest is history.
That's fascinating. So, number one, 17 years at Procter& and Gamble, and then taking that step to starting a company is no easy feat. You're like,
No.
you're comfortable, you're secure, you know how to play the game. Was it something inside of you that just says, I have to do this? Or like what made you take that first step?
I think for me personally, and my co-founders, my wife may say something a little bit different
Sure.
because we all
Okay.
kind of left the corporate
Yeah.
world. I think my taste of independence within Asia that let me know not only could I do this, I was kind of made to. I just felt like I was made to go make this
Got
thing
it.
work. And this is the thing that corporate America doesn't allow, especially in big companies, doesn't allow you to do. I had underestimated what relationships and connections look like because in the US, you were somewhat insulated in this big corporate bubble.
Right.
Well, you get out into these other countries and you realize it's all about relationships. It's
Yes.
just about getting things done. And I was really good at that. Just
Yeah.
the connection. I thought, okay, that's a skill set I've started to acquire.
Yeah.
I really should do this on my own because I'm really good at it, as opposed to going back to the corporate world and try to do that internally, the same kind of machine. And so I felt really good about it. So that was number one. I think the second thing was, uh, it's tough when you get a taste, and this is for anyone that's thinking about,
Yeah.
changing and moving into something. When you get a taste of true autonomy,
Mhm.
where you really can call the shots and make a difference, it's hard to go back. And I
And
had that when I was in Hong Kong and I was in these countries. I could leave a country, know I made it better.
mhm.
I made decisions on the fly, and I knew coming back to the corporate world that wasn't gonna be the case, and so I just didn't wanna go backwards.
Yeah. That's absolutely understandable, and you're right. It's like when you get to control your time, control like, be able to make decisions, and not all of them are right, but
Oh, goodness, no.
right. I would say if you're 50%, that's really good.
So here,
Um,
let me give you the funny story. Here's our launch date from leaving P&G.
yeah,
Uh, we First day, we've got clients ready. We're flying to Orlando. I have to go through Memphis to connect. As we're walking off the plane, our flight gets canceled.
right,
We're gonna be late for our very first customer call. We have no money, right?
right.
We're staying with friends in Orlando. We go into a cafe to get a cup of coffee, and we watch the second plane hit the World Trade Center.
Oh my gosh.
So our launch date was
Ah,
September 1st. Our first trip was 9/11. So
ugh,
for 6 months, I've got family members and friends saying, "So are you gonna make it? Are you gonna go back to PN what are you gonna do?" So it was a fairly humbling experience, no
of
fault of
course.
our own,
Yeah,
to realize, "What have I done?" But if you believe in the solution you're providing,
right.
if you believe in what it just delayed things, but it was a tough 6 months or so.
I bet there was probably a lot of soul searching and kind of
Yeah,
questioning, like, "Wait, did I make the right decision? Is this the right
right.
way for me?" Yeah, yeah, sad time in history, but, it's amazing that you guys persevered.
Yeah. And we had really cool funding then. So okay, I don't want to
Oh,
monopolize. You have great questions you're going to ask me. Let me tell you funding.
okay.
So I've been trying to coach a few people along this path. When we left Procter, instead of taking 3 months, enjoying ourselves, taking vacations,
Right.
we used our corporate package, that
Yes.
package money as
Yeah,
seed money.
got
And the
it.
beautiful thing about that seed money, they didn't get shares, they didn't
Right.
get options, and they weren't sitting on our board.
That's
So I'm
right.
telling people today is that you're with a company and then you're let go, but you're gonna get 3 months severance, 6 months severance.
Yes,
Take that 20, 50, 80,
of course.
$100,000, go invest in your business as opposed to asking me for
Right.
$100,000, and I'm gonna give it to you with strings attached and other
Yep.
things. And I've had people say, "But I was gonna go to Europe for the summer." I said, "You can,
Yeah.
but this is a windfall
Yeah.
of entrepreneurial cash coming to you that you're
Yes.
never gonna have this chance again because the next time you ask for it, it's really tough." So, that was also how we kept things going, is that we used that as seed money.
Right. And I think what I always tell people, a relationship with an investor or even co-founder, it really is like a marriage. Like you never there's good days and there's bad days, but you are committed to making it work. And so your point of use your seed money if you're getting a package, use it well and wisely because you can start that journey without, you know, not just dealing with building your business, but then also dealing with an external party that you might or might not know that.
Yeah, yeah. Here's a little, trade trick here that, if I say this, I don't think the statutes of limitations are way gone from me getting in trouble, but I think it. But for example, in most packages like that, you get education training, correct?
Yes, yes.
So we took the education money and we went to our accountant
Mm,
and our lawyer
mhm.
and said, "Hey, we need a half day training on how to write operating agreements, on how to write MSAs. We
Fantastic.
need a half day training. Can you bill us for billable hours on
Right.
setting up a P&L?"
Yep.
And so the education money helped fund the infrastructure as opposed to me going to a lawyer paying $200-300 an hour. They simply charged me a billable hour for a 4-day, 4-hour education
Yeah.
piece, and we all 4 sat through the education.
Yeah, that's smart.
So
It's
it's
wise.
being creative with the
Yeah.
funds because the company really wants to help you, but they think, "Oh, I'm gonna help you get educated towards your MBA," or maybe you wanna be a realtor, but why wouldn't you use the education to train you as an entrepreneur? So there's
Yeah.
some very creative ways to have your corporate entity help you if you've got that opportunity.
That's fantastic. That is a creative way of doing it. I had not thought of that particular idea, but it's
Yeah,
fun. So tell me, where are you with Field Agent? What's its? I'm sure its mission has evolved,
a little bit.
or,
Yeah.
and kind of give us an idea of where you operate. And I know you had some other activities. You acquired a business in Europe, but let's start with, where is Field Agent today and its mission?
Today we've had, I think, 3 acquisitions over the last X number of years, most recently in the fall.
Okay.
We acquired a company in France, it was called Simply Field. Luckily, the number had field in it, the name had field in it, which is pretty cool, Field and
Yay.
Field.
Yes.
Um, but but that acquisition allowed us to continue to operate within a similar ICP, but
Hmm.
different verticals. So
Okay.
in our world today, if you do work at retail, whether it's omni-channel,
Sure.
brick and mortar, or you're doing retail work that's related to staffing, you
Hmm.
know, projects, we have a crowd of, almost 3 million people in 7 countries that can
Wow.
actually do micro tasks in 3 categories:
Yes.
quantitative yes, no answers in store,
Okay.
qualitative mystery shopping
Yeah.
research in the middle, and then we've got sampling and ratings and reviews, kind of micro influence on the other side. Simply Field gave us a 4th vertical, which is if you want to use your own employees or
Okay.
your own contractors, then Simply Field, the SaaS platform, drops in
Mm.
and lets you do checklist micro task management with that software. So if you're a retailer
Uh-huh.
and you're trying to understand competition, or if you're a brand and you're trying to understand what's going on in store or online, or if you're an apparel or a high-end beauty and you're trying to manage your beauty assistants at scale,
Mm.
we can take care of you soup to nuts. And so that's kind of the business ecosystem we live in today. Most people look at Field Agent specifically as that crowdsourcing company that provides great quality data
Right.
back into the company to help them understand. And what we've been able to do, or really even over the last 6 months, is to take the scale that we have, instead of being transactional, we can allow you to do now like a virtual store walk where you can go look back at categories 6 months ago,
Yeah.
and I can show you new items that have changed, how share of shelf has changed, heat mapping where people are looking at the shelf. So we've now gone from very transactional
Yeah.
to allowing you to have a virtual store walk that really is a syndicated data look at categories. And so that's where we are today in our business model.
And how granular do you get? Can you do it at a store level when you look at a heat map, or is it
Yeah,
more
we can
vertical?
go down to the shelf level. So I can tell you heat. I could show you the shelf, and
Yeah.
I could show you within the shelf where they're looking.
Okay. All right.
Because when they're taking the photo,
Yeah.
looking at the shelf, and so that's kind of the heat map piece of it. But what's important for us is that if you can get public access to a location,
Hmm.
from a commercial building to a brick and mortar retailer,
Right.
we can get access with people. Within that access, we can send to generic people to capture quantitative, but
Okay.
sending in me, I'm going to send you to Sephora.
Right.
And when you go to Sephora, not only are you going to capture quantitative, I'm going to ask you your opinion. If there's an out of stock, what would you buy?
Got it.
Or when you engage the beauty advisor, what did they
Yeah.
recommend?
Yep.
And while you're there, I'm going to say, hey, would you be interested in buying and trying a product? And I'm going to
Yep.
reimburse you for the product. And would you either post about it, write a ratings and review, or give me research on how you used it in your home? So our photo that we take
Yeah.
is more than a photo quantitative. It's qualitative because I've got a female 18 to 45 data on it.
Yeah.
And I'm having you try a product while you're there.
Yeah.
And I've got great data. So if you're looking at our ICP, one photo and one engagement takes care of a brand person, a market research person, and an
Yes.
operations person all in one transaction.
It's fascinating. It
Yeah.
really. And when you look at the pictures, I'm sure you have technology that allows you to kind of
Right.
analyze those pictures at scale.
Right. So let's speak to the the virtual store walk have is it's a product called Retail Pipelines, and we've
Okay.
partnered with a company that's called Shelfgram.
Okay.
And with machine learning and AI, those two things come together and create amazing visuals for us. So the machine learning, as you can imagine, if you've ever done any photo recognition, it's how do you train the photos? It's the
Right.
classic AI model today,
Yeah.
but I think last year we took like 5 million photos. I mean, so it's
Yeah.
training of retail photos coming in. So it's machine learning. Then we take the AI part of that and say, okay, if this was here before and this is not, therefore give you an alert or a recommendation that said, hey, I know you might not be looking for this, but on this category within Target, there's now 2 new items in Phoenix
Yeah.
because the AI can look for things.
And
Now
look
you've
at
got to set the rules
trash.
up. I mean,
Yeah.
as we know, AI is not that special, but you've got to
Yeah. Yeah.
set
Yeah.
the rules, have it put in. But it really is allowing someone to get away from spreadsheets and flipping through photos.
Mhm.
And you now have a dashboard that gives you proactive information
Yeah.
as opposed to reactive information you asked for. We're starting to push it out. And that's been really cool. And it's happened for us really over the last 6, 9 months that we've been developing this. And AI has really helped us kind of move that along.
That's fantastic. I'm always curious, do retailers mind when people are in the store taking pictures? Like, do you ever
Yeah.
run into that issue?
Let's talk about the early days.
Okay.
The early days when virtually every person I talked to had a Blackberry
Yeah.
and they would hold the phone up and say, Rick, how are you going to train them to take the photos?
Right.
And once they take the photos, how are they going to upload it to their computer to send it to you?
Right.
As opposed to not understanding what an iPhone would do. At the same time, you've got people with signs in the store saying you can't take photos, can't take photos. And I can remember we were at a Walmart meeting. They brought vendors in and they asked us to come in and present because of the work we were doing with them. And one person said, hey, I thought you've got a sign up that says no photos. And she said, if I see you in with a 35 millimeter camera, or if I see a news crew in, we're going to escort them out.
Right.
She said, but we're putting QR codes on our products and we're asking people to use their phone. And you
More
can hear the whole
information.
crowd say,
Yeah.
oh. So in today's world,
Yeah.
uh, outside of maybe a very rural town where someone at the Dollar General would think your management's, taking pictures to see what they're doing.
Right.
Uh, I can't tell you in the last 2, 3 years that we've had any complaint anywhere where someone's ever been questioned. From from the selfies to the checking, and we
So
want you to
true.
take pictures.
Yeah.
So it's such a different world today than it
Yes.
was even 3, 4 years ago. So it's really just kind of a non-issue right now because it's just the way people expect you to do business.
It's society. We all use that, and it's not a question anymore as to why your
It
phone is
really is.
out. Why
Yep.
you're out. So what is the biggest pain point for brands as it relates to, understanding the retail dynamics and how you guys solve for that?
I think for us, in the world of big data,
Mm,
most people know the what. I mean, they've
okay.
got people have more data than you know what to do with. I mean, it's
Sure.
just crazy, right? The amount of data.
Yeah.
And so let's use an out of stock as a easy example for us.
Right.
I know that I've got um, a beauty item that sells 2 units per store per week, and I've got a consumable laundry product that sells 100 items a week.
Okay.
And the machine's going, and I'm looking at 20,000 data points across the United States, and all of a sudden my errors come up and say, "Wait a minute, this item is now scanning 2
Mhm.
versus 4, or it's scanning 20 versus 100."
Right.
And you're
That's
like,
a
"Well, I
part.
guess that's a problem, but why?"
Okay.
I'll come in and tell you by getting someone to go in same day and near
Right.
real time.
Yeah.
People will give me an API feed that says, "Here's my problem." I go out immediately in a store and say the tag was down.
Yeah.
Okay. You have an out of stock, you have phantom inventory.
Right.
Okay. Your signage came down.
Yeah.
Your display is so beautiful, but the person in the store is putting your competitor's product in the display. So one of the biggest pain points they have is the why.
Yeah.
Why is something going on? The second thing is most people are experts in a store, but it's only the store you could drive to that's 15 minutes away.
Right.
With the scale and the expectations and the reduced labor that retailers have today, they expect the brands and the salespeople to be experts.
Mm.
And we provide them a virtual store walk of hundreds and hundreds of locations. So I can tell you across every major market
Mhm.
what the dairy display looks like at Whole Foods.
Wow.
Or I can tell you exactly in every Sephora exactly what they're featuring. I mean, but that's at scale.
Sure.
And
It's
so
not your
now I
local
can,
store. Right, exactly.
as opposed to, well, I'm sure this is how all the stores, I mean, it's just not, I mean, every
Uh,
Whole Foods is
yeah,
a snowflake. They're all
right.
completely different.
Yes.
And I can tell you today, you could pull up a screen and I'd say, what store do you want? Well, I want to look at the store in Austin.
Yeah.
We pull up the store in Austin and we're just literally virtually walking through the store. And you
Amazing.
see, and that's the power of this machine learning and AI within this retail pipeline tool we have, because the biggest issue that brands have,
Yeah.
they don't have near real-time data and they can't see it to come up with why something's going on. And that's what we provide for them.
When you provide that information, I'm always curious, how quickly does the brand respond?
Okay, so uh, if there's a fire, okay,
Yes.
they're
Yes.
responding pretty quick. So from the retail pipeline standpoint, when you've got this proactive data, uh, I normally don't hear too much feedback unless we're doing a quarterly or monthly review where they're like, oh
Okay.
my gosh, it saved me here, it saved me there.
Right.
Obviously, any type of project that we're doing, when someone's out in the store, they realize there's a problem or they see something online or if something's happening, we get pretty quick feedback there. What we found is that because the scale that we have, what are you going to do with 10,000 photos?
Right.
I mean, you don't have 2 weeks to look. I mean,
Yeah.
so the machine learning piece that we have, even within the FieldAgent dashboard, allows you to sort by show me all the locations that an agent said something was wrong. So
Mm.
I go from 10,000 stores to 500. And then based on the recent code wrong, show me all the ones that were missing price tag. And it shows me 50.
Yeah.
Then export that, send it to my third party and go fix it.
Got it.
So we're able to take quantity
Yep.
and break it into manageable tasks. And so that's the way we're getting the feedback. If not, I would be doing a project, send it to them, it would be sitting, and I know it would never be opened
Yeah.
because they're never going to get to it. So dashboards, machine learning, the AI piece that's coming along really makes this a usable tool.
Yeah.
And the last thing we want to do is to have someone pay for data and not use it. I mean, what a waste.
I totally agree. And likely if they're not using it, it's not going to be renewed or in
Right.
the next time period or whatnot. I'm curious, do you guys ever participate in new item introductions? Because I know that's always a major pain point of doing new item introductions and test markets and like it's
Right.
crickets, right? Like that those
It
early days
is. It is.
are very hard to understand like what is actually happening. I know there's companies that put QR codes or coupons inside the product to
Sure.
say, "Hey, tell me a little bit of what you think of this product." Curious your perspective on that.
So let's take, I'll do a CPG and a quick serve restaurant. I'll do both of
Okay.
those as like
Okay.
a quick serve restaurant's more of an LTO, limited time offer.
Yep. Yep.
And then you've got a Unilever craft that says, hey, I'm doing a major planogram reset. So a Unilever PNG would come to us and say, I'd like to send in 200 or 300 people of this demographic, and I want them to shop the category, and I need to understand these 15, 20 insights.
Yep.
Then 4 weeks later, after everything's been reset, then we'll send the same 200 people back in and
Okay.
say, shop the category, answer the same questions. And so we're getting pre and post.
Okay.
And that's tied to a new item because they're trying to understand without, especially, listen, you've dealt in the research world, you get
Yeah.
this. You don't want to lead someone.
Right. Of
And we're
course.
trying to say, what do you see that's different? What you want them to say is, oh my goodness, I've just noticed there's really cool new items here, or something's
Right.
new, or this packaging has changed in a very unaided way. Well, what's interesting is that if I take the pre and they might be talking about, "Oh, I saw the signage," but when you do the post, then they gravitate to the product, then I know something's popping. So, we do a lot of pre and post type of things
Okay.
for new items. The other piece is, in most cases, you've got a limited time, even within big box retail, of a 6-week window that you've got promotion dollars, displays, and then they're flipping on you again. And what we're able to do from a pure audit standpoint is that if you're, I don't know, there's 4,700 Walmarts and you get 2,500 displays. We know that every day matters. So if your displays hit on the first, on the second, we're going to check all 2,500 stores and tell you if those displays are up. Because
Right.
oftentimes, from an execution standpoint, it could take weeks
Mhm.
and you could lose a third to a half of your promotion period
Right.
because displays stay in the background.
Yep. Yep.
So that's how we handle it. Quick serve restaurant's a little bit different because you've got these LTOs all
Mhm,
the time.
mhm.
And what they're trying to understand is, did their stores execute with excellence?
Okay.
So go buy this item, open up the package, show me what it looks like. Was it warm? What did they put in? How was it presented? What words? It's more of a mystery shopping.
Yes,
And I mean, we've probably given away 10,000 pizzas this year of
I
just
bet. Yeah,
food that's all the time, but it's every 30 days,
yeah,
it's a new item that they're coming in. So that's been really cool. It's been fun for our agents, but also for the Little Caesars of the world or the Papa Johns. They're coming in and saying, wow, I can get amazing feedback. And since it's near real time, I can get you feedback to a store while that LTO is still running.
right, right,
See,
and
most
trust.
big pieces of research, you get a report 30 days after it's over. Well, I'm
Mhm.
giving you data while it's going on, and that's mind blowing that a store manager can know that they're just missing it a little,
Yeah,
or it's not quite presented the right way. And that's been pretty fun.
and you can actually, when you think about it, like, even identify it by day part and figure out who was working
Yeah,
that day. That was
that's
supposed.
exactly right. We do a lot of shift work that way. You can
Yeah,
only buy this between 4 and 8, or you can
right.
only buy this between 10 and 2,
Yep,
because they're trying to understand the crews on how they executed. You're
yep.
exactly right. Yeah.
Fascinating. So
Yep.
you mentioned this in earlier part of our conversation, omni-channel.
Right.
Talk to me about how that's impacted your business in terms of, we've talked a lot about a brick and mortar, being in the store, being in the restaurant, quick serve restaurant. How does the non brick and mortar channels fit into your model?
Yeah. What we don't do, it's probably you said what we don't do first.
Okay.
I'm not tracking clicks and I'm not tracking eye movement and I'm not following the mouse. I mean, there's all kinds of companies that do that.
Sure.
Where we really got into Omnicom and it really started to drive into our world was over COVID,
Yeah.
when delivery and pickup became mainstay.
Okay.
Now imagine you're a retailer and you're trying to understand from a competitive standpoint what all of your competitors are doing related to pickup and delivery. And we're going out having our agents do pickup and delivery, videoing the transaction, taking pictures of every facet, measuring exactly the minutes to the time that it takes.
Mm.
So instead of thinking, oh, on average, it takes 3 minutes before someone greets you, I can tell you it was actually 1 minute and 32 seconds,
Wow.
because I've got the iPhone that
Right.
captures that
And
metadata.
you had people going out during COVID
Yeah.
doing this type of
Because,
work?
because you couldn't get third parties to go in because workers had to stay out, but
Right.
we all still had to buy food.
Right.
So while
Got it.
you're shopping, we
I
could
see.
still engage.
Yeah.
And then for the people that didn't want to go to the stores, they wanted to have all these deliveries.
Right.
And you're a retailer that says, yeah, I know there's this little DoorDash thing and I might play.
Yeah.
And then next thing you know, you're Kroger and you're like, well, I have to not only understand it, but this is probably going to be a post COVID thing. I
Yes.
better do the research to understand
No.
what's happening with that.
Yeah.
So when it comes to pickup, delivery, and that omni-channel experience there, we do a ton of work in that
Okay.
space. When it comes to sampling,
Right.
uh, we can ship samples to someone, which is not what we do.
Right.
We tell our clients, wait a minute, what if we have them buy the product, put it into their basket, have it delivered to their home, so that now that item's actually in their basket and you know
Right.
it's in their basket and you can
Yep.
go after them again.
Yeah.
And then that sample comes to them. So let's reimburse them for that product, as opposed to sending it randomly to 100 homes. You have
Right.
no idea who the demographic is. So I know who these people are. If you're L'Oreal and you're trying to go after Revlon,
Yeah.
I'm going to find you women that buy Revlon. And the reason I know they buy Revlon is because I asked them to take a picture of their beauty counter and show me all the mascara they have,
Right.
and they validated their Revlon.
Right.
So I'm only sending samples of L'Oreal or maybe something else to them. They're like, "Oh my gosh, Rick, I'm not wasting samples,
Right. Right.
just sending them." And so that's how we're involved in the e-com
Got it.
omni-channel piece, because we still do that online piece,
Sure.
because now it's in your basket. You can
Yep.
recommend that they buy it again, but we're also doing classic research.
Have you met a lot of the people that are your field agents?
A few. We've got stories of
I mean,
engagement
they're
rings
part of your DNA, right? They are.
that They really are. It's from engagement rings to, we've interviewed one, and yeah, she actually has a podcast now, where she had a severe bout of Crohn's disease, single mom. And
Wow.
she said, Rick, field agent literally fed my child for about 3
Really?
months. Yeah. So you have
That's
just
different.
heartbreaking stories where we help that
Yeah.
someone's taking a cruise or they're buying an engagement ring, or so it varies. Something that we're doing unique now, my wife, the researcher,
Yeah.
actually has an event space here in Northwest Arkansas where companies are sending in their large products. So a outdoor dining or outdoor seating,
Yep.
um, jewelry, TV screens, where you can't simply send 100 TV screens out.
Right.
It's too
Yes.
expensive.
Yeah.
And so in that event center, we now have hundreds of people coming in doing product reviews before an item is launched.
That's interesting.
And so we're getting complete engagement with
Yep.
people today, unlike we've ever done before. So it's really fun to see the
Yeah.
stories. And then with our client success and customer success folks, they get cards, you get birthday cards and
Oh,
Christmas
nice.
cards. So
Yeah.
it's really kind of fun.
Yeah. What is like in the online world and in like say quantitative research or qualitative research, the incentives are so different
Right.
depending on, the research impact of the length of interview, what for qual, if it's digital qual or if you're
Right.
coming into a center. What is the incentive model, kind of the rubric around how field agents get compensated or rewarded in
Yeah,
your
it's
model?
interesting. If you're talking to a hardcore researcher
Yeah.
or a panel provider,
Yeah.
the interesting thing is we get about 5,000 organic downloads a week.
Wow.
If any mommy blogger or a penny pinching blogger writes
That
about us, we'll get
yeah.
30, 40,000 downloads this week.
Holy moly.
If you research or Google anything about how do you make money with your phone,
Yeah.
we're always the top 1, 2, or 3
Got
that have
it.
been vetted and you can make real money. So that's
Okay.
number one. Okay. So
Okay.
that's the second thing is because this is while you shop and while you go, we do not have to pay and maintain a panel.
Right. Right.
So I'm not trying to keep 2 billion people active.
Right.
On any given month, I'm keeping 200,000 people active.
Got
I mean,
it.
it's still
Okay.
a crazy number, but I
Yeah.
don't have to keep all 2 million because I'm not trying to provide a representative
Right.
sample
Yep.
to a sampling group over here. And then the payment aspect of it, you're never going to become the mayor of field agent. You're not going to get a badge. You're
Right.
not going to get
Sure.
points. It's pure cash. So for a person inside of their home to answer a question on how they store products or what they do inside of their home, uh, that's going to cost you $3 or $4 per complete,
Okay.
roughly.
Yep.
If you have someone go out to a store and they're engaging at that time, it's going to be $10 to $15 per complete.
I
It's going to include photos, video. We're pretty good about not having them be exhaustive. We're not going to have them answer 30 questions, but
right.
we do a nice
Right.
job.
Yep.
And then when you start getting into ratings and reviews and other things, it's probably closer to $20, $25 a complete because you're going to do some follow up. We're going to understand if they would buy the product later. So there's a
Fine.
little bit more complexity there. And then in most cases, that agent is going to receive anywhere from 40 to 60% of what I charge you. So
Okay.
the average person is making $1 or $2 at home,
Yep.
$5 to $10 out in a store. And I think last year, the record for us was around $20,000 that someone made last year.
Really?
Yeah.
That's crazy.
The average person is probably making $10, $15 a week
Still.
because I'm out. I was going to go to
Yeah.
Kroger, but Safeway was here. I was going to go to Target, but I can
Right.
make $10 at Walmart, or I'm traveling to Virginia to see my
Right.
family.
Yes.
And I could go to Love's, but wait a minute, I could go to Pilot and make $10 because
Yes.
all Pilot wants me to do is say, was I greeted at the door and were the bathrooms clean?
That's amazing. Yeah, that's really cool. Very
Yeah,
cool.
yeah, so that's kinda how our economy works, and so the
Got it.
average person making a little bit of cash, but
Diligent.
if you want to receive the free beer that we're gonna give you for sampling it,
Yeah.
that we provide, and
Right.
you wanna offer the eat our pizza or our food, and you wanna actually engage in the products and the way we're doing things, and you check the app 2 or 3 times a day, there are people that are making $25, $50 a day just between lunch and on their way home.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's the gig economy. It's part of their gig,
It's the gig economy.
right?
Most college and young people are saying, I want to do this just enough to keep paying for my new iPhone.
That's
If
right.
I can make 30 or $40 a month, then I'm gonna keep getting a new phone,
Yeah.
and this thing's gonna pay for it. And so it's interesting how many people say, "Oh, I only do this enough to
To
pay for
cover
my phone."
the yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
yeah,
That's it. Exactly. Rick, I want to get your take on AI. You obviously you're already using it. Um, there's an explosion around generative AI. It, what's your perspective in terms of its role in the industry, um, and particularly your business? If I'm sure you've thought about it clearly
yeah, yeah,
from your business perspective.
yeah. So let's get into the infrastructure or the internal operations of any business in
Sure.
general.
Yeah.
I think we're naive to think that for me to come up with content and then I have to come up with 20 different versions of one liners based on the content I've created so I can do A B testing on ads
Yeah.
would have taken me X hours. And today I still tell our team, I still want you creating original content. But for AI to give me 20 examples of that to
Sure.
quickly A/B test,
Yeah.
oh my. I mean,
Yes.
just
Yes.
crazy the amount of time.
And why
And then
not?
the same way for photos,
Right.
we do the original creative. We're not trying to pull anything off. We've got 4 or 5 different versions. And now I say, okay, I need these sizes. And
Yeah.
it's just amazing how quickly that our design creative content team is using that. On the customer service side, it's all the stuff you expect.
Sure.
It's becoming cleaner and better. It's pretty typical. Now, when you look at the data model that we have, I think it's just making it more human-like with the responses.
Mhm.
Uh, it's still me with the algorithms and putting things in place to say, look for this and do that. But the engagement that we're getting from our clients, like, well, it just felt so much better.
Mm.
And I wouldn't say we figured it out yet, to be honest with
Sure.
you, but
Yeah.
we're getting better and better about really having that interface feel different
Yeah.
as to what we were doing today. And I think when you look at the world of the big data we're living in today, if you're willing to use your own data set, and in our case, we're big enough that we could use our own data set. So I'm not sending my clients' data out.
Right.
We're actually, we brought things in and we're
Or
running our data set. We're getting pretty smart.
yeah.
And it's been really cool to see the scale of which we're getting smarter
Yeah.
on the nuances on data, how we now show data differently, the types of questions we weren't even thinking about asking. And now the AI tells, oh my
Have
gosh,
the
I would have
ability
never
to
thought
that.
about that.
Yep.
So I think it's making us better. So if I was coaching someone, I would say, A, you have to be engaged in it. You can't
Yeah.
not be.
Yeah.
But I think it's going to make you better. But if you let it just kind of go off on its own, I think you're really doing a disservice to your
Yeah.
customers, to your clients, and to your team, because I don't know how you're going to take that and scale it in the right way because you're
Sure.
always one engagement off from doing something really stupid.
Yeah.
And so you just, I keep telling myself, I said, you start to look at it. You
Right.
can't just let this thing,
Yeah.
you can't let this thing go. So I think for anyone that's in the space, especially
Mm.
around data, it's just mandatory. And for your internal teams, even something as simple as when a salesperson sends out a recap, we say just run it through AI, just run it through
Right.
ChatGPT, just
Yeah.
and it cleans it up a little bit. It's the best editor I've got
Yeah.
as far as helping me, as opposed to saying, "Here's 3 sentences, write something for me." I said, I don't need you to go that route." So
Right.
it's been a good enabler for us.
Yeah. Well, and I think what you said is spot on. Like, be responsible, test it.
You
It's
have to
it's
be.
it's it's not like if you're point A, you're going to get to point Z without playing and dabbling and
Right,
refine and experimenting.
right.
What you're ultimately trying to get achieve. And I actually think like we're never quote unquote going to be there because it feels like technology is just going to continue to evolve and
Well,
excel.
I think so, but another thing, we just had our first RFP 3 weeks ago or so. That was the first time that they asked about AI.
Interesting.
And whereas the past would have been, "What technology? How do you
Right.
do X?" And now they're saying, "Hey, I need to know how you're using AI. Okay, what specific, you know, brands are you using?
Right.
And so it's like even they're trying to understand, from a business standpoint, but I also think there's also a purchasing legal standpoint to make sure they understand
Privacy.
what we're
Yeah.
doing,
Yeah.
privacy, et cetera.
Exactly.
So, to leave that box blank
Mm,
could be the kiss of death on an RFP. So
true.
you have to have some positioning to get
Yeah.
past that hurdle. So my expectation is in the next year, I think everyone's going to ask that question. What are you using? How are you using it? What are your legal restraints,
Yeah.
constraints? What are your agreements?
Right.
How are you handling liability? So you're
Yeah.
going to have to stick your head in there.
I totally agree. And it's fun. It's exciting to
Oh
learn
yeah,
something,
it's great.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Thank you so much for joining me today. Thoroughly enjoyed our conversation. And I look forward to keeping in touch with you.
Oh, it's been a blast. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you. Take care.